Okay, so I found a report for a US border town that I don't think I've actually covered in the past. This one comes out of Detroit, and it talks to a few bar owners who are noticing that the Canadians are not coming back down and spending their money in their shop. So we'll talk about this in this video. I also have a few articles I want to discuss. The first one, titled, States Beg Canadians to Return as Orange McNugget Antagonizes America's Neighbor. And the second article is titled, 11 million visitors short, Inside America's Continuing Tourism Slump. Now, to be honest, there's not a lot of new things listed in these articles that we don't already know, but there are a few metrics in here that I really wanted to point out. So I'll discuss this in this video as well. The backdrop you're looking at right now came from some guy named Guard the Leaf, and he took this photo last year, I think sometime around late August, early September area. I'm not really too sure why I wanted to use this photo. Maybe I'm getting a little bit homesick. But I really do miss having the seawall at my doorstep, as well as this place being a 15-minute walk away from where I used to live. I still haven't found a good poutine yet here in Malaysia, but I'm pretty sure this place is going to be one of the first places I go to when I come back and visit. Okay, let's get started with the first report out of Detroit.
5:30, declining Canadian tourism rates raising alarm bells in Detroit tonight. Thank you for staying with us at 5. I'm Simon Shaquette.
And I'm Glenda Lewis. Detroit tourism officials expressing concern tonight. This after data released by the Canadian government shows a 30% drop in Canadians traveling by car to the United States.
Detroit is home to the largest and busiest land and border crossing between the two nations. And now local businesses say they have taken notice. 7 News Detroit reporter Brett Cast breaking down what this means for Detroit's economy and for Canadian travelers.
The Gordie Howe Bridge, which is the new route connecting Detroit and Windsor, is nearing completion, but it's not physical bridges, but political bridges that tourism officials believe is driving less traffic from Canada into the U.S. It takes roughly 5 minutes to drive from the Canadian border to McShane's Irish Pub in Corktown.
Now, I know we have a lot of viewers in Windsor, and I'm actually kind of curious if anybody has been to this McShane's place. If you've ever been to this bar in the past and used to go frequently, let us know in the comments below.
Yet the Canadian customers that Rita Cazares and her staff once called regulars aren't around as much.
We have seen a decline, and it's been a little hurtful to us.
Well, your president as well as the Republicans have been pretty hurtful to Canada, so the feeling is mutual. But I am kind of curious why people would cross over into the United States just for a beer, when we have beer in Canada. I mean, it's also better beer too. I mean, I'm just trying to understand because, I mean, here on the West Coast, we don't have a big city like Detroit right across the border. We have Blaine. And I'm not crossing the border into Blaine just for a beer.
According to statistics released by the Canadian government this week, Canadians crossing land borders into the United States dropped 30% year over year.
You're not surprised to hear that number?
Not surprised at all with what's going on.
Rita and others say they've heard from Canadians who no longer wish to travel to the United States given the current political conflict between the two countries, finding it more patriotic to spend their money at home.
Definitely the sentiment has changed, and we're seeing it both, statistically and anecdotally.
Claude Molinari with Visit Detroit also noted that 30% decline and says while overall tourism in Detroit remained flat, more Canadians would have led to an increase in 2025.
It matters for people, that depend on tourism and hospitality for a living. You've lost a segment of the population that's just not coming right now.
Now, I don't know anything about Detroit, and I'm not going to pretend that I do. I mean, when I think Detroit, I think 8 Mile and RoboCop. Sure, it might be my ignorance, but I just really don't know anything about Detroit. But being that it is a border town, the cross-border shopping and visits is something they probably highly depended on in the past.
For leisure, we do find ourselves traveling a lot less than usual because it's not worth it.
For Canadians like Felicia Chabante, who live in Windsor but work in Detroit, it's not just politics but finances. Every U.S. dollar is really $1.37 in Canadian dollars.
I'm so annoyed by this exchange rate excuse that I'm done with it. But to prove my point, here's the exchange rate as of today that when I'm editing this video. 1 Canadian dollar equals about 73 cents US dollars. Now switching over to 2024, I'm not going to use 2025 because that's when we really started to boycott and stuff like that. But it's less than a penny difference. And in February 2024, I'm pretty sure Detroit was doing pretty well when it came to cross-border shopping, just like the rest of the United States in 2024. Sure, inflation does play a role, but the exchange rate is not the main reason that Canadians are staying away. I really don't get it. I mean, is it a pride thing or is it an arrogance thing? I mean, why can't they just listen to actually what the Canadians are saying instead of making their own assumption on what it is? I had a funny conversation with one of our viewers, and he was saying, hey, GTL, If you ever did an interview with a US media outlet, this is probably how it's going to go. I would basically tell them the truth. It's the 51st state rhetoric, it's the insults from their president, the far right that's causing issues, and it's not the exchange rate. And I think the only thing that would err in that report is me saying the exchange rate. So this is why I will never do an interview with a US media outlet unless I can record it myself.
Making shopping here less affordable.
It was nice to come here and shop and then maybe get dinner and stuff like that, so you find yourself doing a lot less of that.
No matter the reason, tourism officials say the decline is real, but Canadians are welcome anytime.
When they feel that it's an appropriate time to come back, we will welcome them back.
We are hopeful for that. The hopeful it's just a temporary bump.
Well, I hate to burst your bubble, but this isn't going to be a temporary thing. And many of the Canadian customers that used to visit your bar are probably never going to come back. Now, I want to move on to this next article from Axios, and it's titled, States Beg Canadians to Return as Orange McNugget Antagonizes America's Neighbor. I think the title should actually be States Beg Canadians to Return with Their Money as Orange McNugget Antagonizes America's Neighbor. That would be a more accurate title if you ask me. The article starts off by saying several states are now rolling out new initiatives to lure Canadians back to the US after visits from America's northern neighbor fell by roughly 20% between January and October of last year. Now, this next part is really what I wanted to show. The big picture. Canada leads all international visitors to the US with those 20 million visits in 2024, generated about $20 billion in spending, and supported 140,000 American jobs, according to the Travel Association data. You know, one thing we haven't heard from in the past year are these people that have lost their jobs due to the boycott and due to the US administration's actions. You would think that these people that have lost their jobs would be very vocal about it. I have seen some people on Reddit rant about losing their job because of the boycott, but there's nothing really in the media about it. Now, the rest on this screenshot, we already know. 51st state, blah, blah, Gordie Howe Bridge, and visas for more than 30 days. The next article I want to talk about is titled 11 million visitors short, inside America's continuing tourism slump. Now, the article goes on to talk about the visa fees and social media vetting, which we already know about. And to be honest, we probably know more about this than most US citizens do. It then goes on to talk about FIFA and the 250th anniversary of the United States and some other event. And also Florida, which we already know that a lot of snowbirds didn't go to the United States. Again, this is nothing new for us because I've already reported this in the past. But this next segment in the article is actually what caught my attention, and this is what I want to read out to everybody. While it's still early in the year, airline booking analysis from the flight data company Cirium, published this month showed a 14.2% decline in July bookings from Europe compared to last year. Now, what's happening in July? It's that event where this guy got a fake award from the organizers. And to be honest, I'm not going to lie. I thought FIFA would actually give the United States a bit of a bump in terms of tourism, because I know the Europeans love their football. But these numbers and these clues that we're starting to see shows that FIFA in the United States might actually be a big bust. This next part, it talks to Kirsten Heinen, a spokesperson at the German Travel Association, and she says she does not know why the bookings continue to decline. Seriously, Kirsten? Really? But that the reasons may range from political and social factors to entry requirements and price levels. In France, tour operator sales to United States-bound travelers fell nearly 40% in January, compared to the same month last year. Well done, France, on the boycott. Now, this last paragraph here on the screen. Britain has remained stable amid the downturn to Western European visitations, but the stagnation has some traveler advisors concerned about future demand. I'm not sure I 100% agree with Britain remaining stable amid the downturn, because we have seen plenty of reports out of the UK, and even pictures of flights being empty to the United States. But if that's what the New York Times wants to run with, then I guess that's what they're going to run with. The article then moves on to Alan Wilson, who's the company managing director for Bon Voyage Travel and Tours. And he says that his company is starting to focus on destinations in Asia, South America, and Middle East. He said these changes are an insurance policy following a great 40-year run from 1980 to 2020, when America was seen as very welcoming to overseas visitors, with exciting attractions and competitive prices that couldn't be found elsewhere. Now, in my opinion, I think this really emphasizes the change that 2025 and 2026, this is something we've never seen before. He mentions his business has been great for 40 years, from 1980 to 2020. I mean, that's almost as old as I am. But to have a 40-year run end this year, it really negates the fact that a lot of these US business owners and tourism officials and anyone else are saying this is just a blip or we've seen this before. Well, you have never seen this before. This is not going to be like COVID. This is not going to be like 9/11 or any natural disaster that the United States may have had that caused tourists not to go to your country. Now, this last screenshot is about a UK citizen that was planning to take his family to the US. He said he had planned a trip to Universal Studios Florida with his family in 2024, but delayed because of the strength of the dollar. As the dollar dropped against the British pound in recent months, he started to look for flights in April, but has been put off because of what he describes as whiplash from President Orange dictator's politics. He says, it's one shocking headline after another, and even if you don't pay attention, it naturally makes you want to stay away. So why did I show this to everybody? It's because I really wanted to actually focus on the Europe side. My channel is Canadian-centric, and I have been reporting pretty much since I started about what Canada is doing to boycott the United States. But ever since the Orange dictator threatened Greenland, I have seen an increased sentiment in the Europeans wanting to boycott the United States. And it's a great thing if you ask me. The more global citizens we have on board boycotting the US, then hopefully we can start sending the United States government a message. But then again, I have zero faith in the US government. So we're just going to have to take care of ourselves and our allies. Now, if you want to read these two articles on your own, I'll leave a link to them in the description below. They're both behind a paywall, so I'll leave the link that allows you to read it. Alright, that's all I got for today. If you found any value or you agree with anything I said today, or you want to hear more from a Canadian and international point of view without the US bias, make sure you hit the subscribe button below. That way you're notified of my future videos. Thanks everyone. I'll catch you in the next one.